and the ancestors are looking out for us. God Hayes is exposing them, man.
Okay, you see that chair right there? See how big it is?
Yeah.
Now look at the Pope chair under it. Scroll down, look at the Pope chair under
Never have it been made so clear.
Young TV. Young.
We running the game right now.
Young TV.
Time to take over.
Young
We the hottest in the game. Hit that like, hit that subscribe button. If you just not tuned in.
TV.
Share, like on your Instagram, Facebook.
Young TV.
If you tuned in, we broadcasting live from 2030, baby.
Young TV. Young
Taking over the game, baby. Oh yeah.
Young TV.
Hit that like.
Young TV.
Get them likes up in the air, you heard me?
Young TV.
Ride by. Hotel Islam.
Young TV.
Assalamu alaikum. Shalom alaikum.
Young
TV.
Washington,
there, though,
D.C.
is probably one of the best examples of a question that you're using logic and they just don't have an answer for. So they just have to get you to shut your mouth or go with the flow.
Yeah.
And they don't like those types of questions. They don't like people questioning the masks, the
That's
compulsory.
exactly right. They don't want you questioning nothing. Just keep your mouth shut, wear your mask and stay home. Don't go to work, wear your mask or you're going to die some terrible, horrible disease you're going to catch. And so stay home, wear your mask, and don't get near other people, and stay 6 foot away from other people at least.
That story, though, demonstrates, though, that even from the time that you were very young, you were already a thinker and a perceiver, and you could see how the priesthood would prefer you to just be a believer and a follower.
That's exactly correct.
And we're in the same position now where you have thinkers and perceivers and a whole lot of followers. And I feel like for those of us who can perceive and think, if we don't push back, then the masses of believers who are being led by you know who are going to drag us down wherever they're going.
You're right. It's an incredible story, a betrayal of innocence. Because the American people, generally speaking, are an innocent people. They're not mean, they're not vicious, and they're not trying to overthrow anybody else. They're just regular people who want to live. So I'm saying the American people are an innocent people. But because of the innocence, this is what the Catholic Church does, is raping the innocent. It's taking advantage of the innocent. And this is why we're called today United States citizens, U.S. citizens, because U.S. is not America. Now, here's another thing you need to know, that there is something called a styles magazine. Styles, like a new clothes or different styles. Well, there's a magazine that's published by the United States government called the Styles magazine. And what the Styles magazine is, it tells you the words that are used by the federal courts and federal judges and what those federal words actually mean, not what you think they mean, but what they mean in court. And it's called the Styles magazine. Well, you find out, if you get the Styles magazine, you will find that the word for a male or a female, man or woman, is male and female. But you will find out that in the Styles magazine that male and female are for animals only. Only animals are male and female. Humans are masculine and feminine. Masculine and feminine for man and woman. But you are neither a man nor a woman. You are a U.S. citizen. You're an animal. You're a male or female. That's why you have that on your driver's license.
Okay,
And why
so
do you have to have a driver's license?
well, then clearly, the masses of believers who don't question have pretty much adopted a false interpretation of the world because the very definition of words have been occulted.
Yes, you're
This is
correct.
pretty clear. Well, right now we're seeing the communist riots, the rioters, they're going out and they're actually tearing down statues, which I
Yes,
think is a form of mind control because they want to destroy the history and rewrite it.
that's right. That's precisely what's happening. And we're going along with it. And because we're useful idiots. We put our mask on. We stay home. We don't go to work. We don't question anything. We don't know anything. We don't research anything. And therefore, we just put our mask on, stay home, and keep your mouth shut. And we'll let you know what you need to do when it's time. And so that's what I'm watching. The whole entire world is becoming a massive communist encampment.
It
And
is.
we don't know,
There's
if you
cities
don't
like
know it,
Seattle where communists are seizing city blocks and blocking it off, creating their own
yep,
little miniature police states. It's really insane because they're even racially segregating. And I'm looking at one of these videos the other night where they tore down a statue of Albert Pike, of all people. I thought that was unusual. The big Albert Pike statue in DC got pulled down by rioters. And I'm wondering, do they know the significance of that man and his role in the secret societies and the ones who are actually causing this chaos?
no, they have no idea in the world. It's just a mob mentality. If you go back into the 1900s, the early 1900s, you will find all the communist countries that were founded, starting with the Soviet Union. All communist countries were referred to as the People's Democratic Republic. We have the People's Democratic Republic of China, the People's Democratic Republic of North Korea, the People's Democratic Republic of Cuba, the People's Democratic Republic. That's what we are today. We are democratic, the People's Democratic Republic. That is a communist term that is used by the Communist Party. Democratic simply means demos. That's why when you see the people out in the street turning over cars and busting windows, it's a demonstration. Why do we call it a demonstration? Because they're demonstrating. Because the word demo in ancient Greek, demo, meant a mob. The people in the street are a demo, a mob of people. And so that's why they're called the People's Democratic Societies, all communist governments. Well, why? Because we in America have a Democratic Party. And the People's Democratic Party, the People's Democratic Republic, is a communist republic. And we are all nothing more than animals. We're male and female. It's an incredible story of betrayal of the American people.
The Democrats, to me, have always been something like, I call them the mobocrats.
Yeah,
It
that's
seems like
right,
they're
because they
controlling.
are mobocrats, because that's what the word demos means.
Well, apparently, their entire political system philosophy is based on agitating large groups of people emotionally so they cannot be engaged with intellectually. So
That's right,
suddenly,
that's exactly
they're tearing down
correct.
statues. It's like I could make an argument for taking down the statue of Albert Pike. I don't need to use an angry mob and engage in destruction of property. You can do these things in an orderly way. So I see them as actually controlling with chaos. That's how they do it. And they're creating so much division and chaos today that the world looks very different than it did a few months ago. And I wanted to bring this up. I noticed that there's something of a playbook always at work. And right now it seems like the playbook is 1968, where the media is constantly referring to 1968 as a template for what we're seeing right now. It's how they're framing things. You know, the race riots,
Yep,
the,
I remember. I
the
remember
turmoil at
well.
the time, and we're
Yep.
reliving it now. And so it seems to me, though, it's very intentional because Donald Trump actually used direct statements out of the 1967, 68 era. Like
Yep.
when the shooting starts, no, sorry, when the looting starts, the shooting starts. Trump
Yep.
said that. Well, that was a phrase from back in 1967, 1968, and a segregationist used it. So I just see a whole lot of manipulation by time-tested playbooks, and they know how to pull people's strings, and we're seeing the results.
That's exactly correct. Absolutely and exactly correct. They know how to pull our strings. They know how to scare us into doing what they tell us to do. And we are useful idiots. We go along with them and do whatever they tell us to do. Put on your mask, stay home, stay away from each other, don't talk to each other, stay away from being in a group, and stay away with your mask on and stay home and don't go to work. And hopefully one day soon, your country, the United States of America, will finally go broke. If nobody's working and nobody's doing anything, it'll finally just go broke. And therefore, we hope that you will have your mask on, your country will go broke, and therefore you can see the end of life as you know it on the earth. And no longer will there be any sort of freedom or liberty or justice at all. The judges will tell you there is no justice. There's just us. And that's what's going on today, is a
Okay, so
communist takeover of America.
you've been alluding to October, and when we first spoke, you know, a lot of people are saying, well, how can it get any worse? You know, they shut down our
Oh,
economy.
well, stick around. It's going to get far, far worse
Well, I
in
wouldn't have believed it.
October.
And then a few weeks later, I'm watching the beatings, the violence, the destruction in the streets, where now it's not safe anymore in these big cities. Uh, the media
You're right.
doesn't care if somebody on the wrong side, like if a Republican gets shot in the riots, nobody talks about it. If he's a right winger, they politicize death. They create martyrs. They've created this chaos, and it keeps escalating. So now I almost don't feel like there's a limit to how crazy it can get. And the other day, Fox News started talking about UFOs again and suggesting they could be real UFOs or drones from China. Do you think they're going to play that card on us?
Oh, I know they're going to. It's going to happen very soon, too. It's going to be a UFO extraordinary situation is going to develop on the earth. And I do think that we do have demonic possession of the human race today. We don't realize that our brains are computers and our bodies are biological batteries. And that's why if you get in trouble when you go to court, why do you have to go to court? Because you play tennis on a court. How do you play tennis on a court? You play with a racket. The whole thing is a racket. That's why you play with a racket on tennis court. It's an extraordinary story of words and terms and where the words come from and what they mean. Why do you have a bank? Is because you put your money in a bank and they control the bank.
Okay, well, mothership. This is one of the phrases. Whenever you see these alien invasion movies, they always refer to it as a mothership.
Yeah.
Brings all the smaller ships that actually take us out.
Yep. And that's what's going on right now. I think that what's happening is the world is being taken over by a spiritual power that we don't understand. And that spiritual power seeks to collectivize all humans into one family, into one place. And once we become all one, therefore we will become all one at one time in one place in one religion, one government, then we can be dealt with accordingly. We can be wiped out off the earth by extraterrestrials. And this is what Christianity talks about. It talks about the evil demons and devils, where you don't see them. Why? Because they are spirit. And therefore we are being taken over by a dark, evil spirit. It's incredible. Like I call it a betrayal of the human family. But it's all based on words and terms that most people have no idea about at all. Never heard any of this.
Well, you
I've
know,
been talking about it for 60 years.
one of the reasons, yeah, you've been talking about this for 60 years, and one of the reasons I started even looking into this is I came across a lot of your earlier work where you started breaking down the language, the lexicon, and how there's a language for the elite that they see, and then the useful idiots, the blindfolded, ignorant masses, they get a different message.
Yep, you're right.
And you've been uncovering this since the beginning. I think that you've been very much vindicated this year, which isn't necessarily a good thing because
no, it's not. It's not a good thing. I'm sorry I'm being vindicated, but I did tell you for 60 years this was coming. There was a destruction coming of America. And I knew it because I know what the words mean. I know what the symbols mean. We don't have a Statue of Freedom. We have a Statue of Liberty. Statue of Liberty is in New York, the Empire State. The Statue of Liberty, everyone thinks is a woman. It's not. The people who created the Statue of Liberty said it was a man. He is a judge over all mankind. That's what he has in his hand, is the judge's books. And he's holding a torch, and it's called the Torch of Prometheus. It's on the back of American dimes. It's called the Torch of Prometheus. And the Statue of Liberty is holding the Torch of Prometheus. It's just an incredible story that's so convoluted and so deep and so profound that it takes hours and hours for people to see. And that's what I want to do. That's what I've been trying to do.
Every time I talk to you, you bring up something that connects another dot, because I knew there was some connection between this Mercury archetype Joker burning a pyramid of money in the movie, talking about a higher class of criminal. I was like, what's the connection between Mercury and the torch? And then you brought it up, that Mercury is a torchbearer, and it's reflected even on our dime.
Yes.
Torch. And so...
and you start in Statue of Liberty, too.
Exactly. The Liberty, the Torch of Prometheus. And, of course, that symbol figures very strongly in Atlas Shrugged, of all things, the book Atlas Shrugged.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
That's a book about the elite putting the world into darkness intentionally.
Yeah.
Book. And it seems like that's where we're at right now, where they're putting everything into a stasis so that they can rebuild on the ashes after everything crashes.
Yep. Well, the head of the chief of the what am I trying to say? The head of the Library of Congress. The head of the Library of Congress was James Billington. Unfortunately, he has passed away. But James Billington was the Library of Congress head, and he wrote a book before he died called Fire in the Minds of Men. It's on my website if you want to go look on the on my website, jordanmaxwellshow.com. You have to type it full in, jordanmaxwellshow.com is my website. And you will find that Jordan Maxwell Show, there's books that are being, there are books that are being promoted on my website. And one of them is called Fire in the Minds of Men. And what James Billington said was that the Masonic Order of Freemasons picked that number, picked that word, Statue of Liberty. It's not the Statue of Freedom. You're not free at all. You've never been free. You're not free now, and you never will be free, because you are a member of the United States Corporation. You are a U.S. citizen, and therefore you do not have any access to the Constitution, to the Bill of Rights, or to the Declaration of Independence. You do not have any access to any of that. Only Americans have that. You are not an American, you are a U.S. citizen, and U.S. is a corporation incorporated in Delaware. So it's a U.S. corporation that is running the world today. It's an extraordinary story of betrayal. Again, betrayal of the whole human family.
Okay,
That's
so
it.
when it comes to this transition into the new age and the revolution, fires in the minds of men, it's all about revolution. And the symbol of the phoenix, of course, it's about fire. They burn down.
That's right. That's right. Burn it
So,
all down so they can start all over again.
and that's what we're witnessing now. We're witnessing the collapse of our financial system and
The
everything's
collapse of America, period.
Well, this is the thing I'm wondering here, though, is so they bring about some new universal threat to organize us all, whether
Yeah.
it's, whatever it happens to be. But the UFO thing, in your opinion, are we dealing then with more than just advanced and suppressed technology? Are we dealing with another species? Who is behind or who is in these craft, if that's what it happens to be? Or do you think
I think that what we have is a universal world government that is overseen by extraterrestrials. I think that we have an extraterrestrial presence on the earth that we don't even know about. We're not told, we're not even alluded to it in literature or nothing else. But Christianity did talk about the coming days of destruction for the world, and the whole world was operating under Satan, the devil. And I do believe that there is some kind of a connection with the other world, which is a dark force. And this is what is going on in the world today. We are being led into our death as a civilization right now by people who want America to be destroyed. This is why the president is hated so badly by the Democratic Party, because we have been at war with the Democratic Party for so many years. We were at war with the Soviet Union, but it finally fell. The Soviet Union finally fell because there's no possible way the communists can finance themselves. The communists themselves do not realize it was American bankers that financed the Communist Party and Soviet Union. It was the American bankers who financed the communists over the communist movement in Europe. And today the European governments are being overthrown by the Roman communist system.
Well, you know what? That makes perfect sense. The communist system and ideology, it's based on this perfect utopia, but it's always been parasitic. It doesn't create enough to sustain itself, and so it has to be warlike, it has to take, it has to parasite. And we have a perfect microcosm in these autonomous zones that are being opened up by communists in various cities, where they call themselves autonomous, but they don't have an economy. All they have is control over a border and letting people in and out.
Yep, you're right. And that's what we are faced with today. We're basically faced with the communist overthrow of the United States of America. But this is going back 1868. After our Civil War, we were no longer referred to as the United States of America. We became known around the world as a United States corporation. We were incorporated in Delaware as a Delaware corporation, and it was called the United States Corporation. And each one of us today is a U.S. citizen, which means you are an employee of a corporation. And there's another point. Here's another point you need to keep in mind. If you go and watch all the old movies, the old cowboy movies, cowboys were always wearing their guns on their hips, and they could come in wearing their guns, and they could go into the bar and have a drink wearing their guns and their pistols. And if they have a falling out with anyone, they can have a falling out with anyone. They have to, you can go out and settle your argument in front of everyone, in front of the sheriff. The sheriff cannot intervene. Why? Because you are a sovereign citizen. You have a right to do what you want to do. And that's why you can carry a gun, to protect your sovereignty against the government. So the cowboys wore a gun. Did they need a permit or a license? Did they get a permit to wear a gun? No. Almost all guys wore guns because they were Americans, and America had the right to bear arms. So that's why all the cowboys bear arms. But today we don't have that. Today we have something called the United States Corporation.
Well, you know, if they were to remake a cowboy movie today in Hollywood, they wouldn't have guns on the hips. I mean, they would exaggerate it. Like what they'll do is they'll make guns look to be scary, or they'll try to airbrush it out. They'll try to minimize it. They don't want guns as a way to maintain order.
That's right.
They don't want that idea out there. Guns are supposed to be bringers of chaos. A gun kills people. And they've used hyper-realistic, simulated mass shootings at schools, you know, these drills, to get the kids to be afraid of guns. So for 20 years, they've been inundated with guns are bad, you know, America pollutes. This communist revolution has had many fronts, but one of them has been the gun grab, because then you can't defend your property, including your body.
It's exactly correct. Yes.
Now, Jordan, we've been on for about an hour and 15 here. I've got a few people in the comments who are asking questions. And one commenter wants to know if you've heard of this individual, Joseph Gregory Hallett, who...
Yes, I have. Yes, he's talking about he is the real king of England.
Yes. Okay.
But I have been talking to the actual king of England, the real king of England. I have been corresponding with the real king of England, who was no longer accepted by the British royalty. The British royalty are Germans. They are Germans. They're not English. And therefore, the Queen Mum is not an English monarch. She is a German monarch. And they come from a German family. The whole bunch of what am I trying to say? The whole system of governmental agencies in Europe are not English. They're Germans. They're Nazis. And the Queen Mum has been one of the biggest Nazis the world has ever known. But most people don't know that. They don't know she's a Nazi and a German. It's an incredible story, again, because you can go back and look at it. You'll see that she is a German Nazi.
Well, this, I'm new to this individual, Joseph Gregory Hallett, but what he recently put out a documentary, or some parts of a documentary have come out, and what he's essentially doing is calling into question the very identity of the royal family. I find it to be very interesting, though, timing-wise, with the novel Corona, New Crown. It just seems like the idea is out there that the world has a king, or a king is being crowned, or something like that behind the scenes. And so when I see this figure gaining popularity, I'm wondering, well, what are we actually seeing here in the storyline? Are we going to see the ascension of some type of world leader openly?
I think so. Very soon we will see some kind of a world leader, and all the people of the world will be properly prepared to crawl on their knees to the emperor of the world. And this is why if you don't, your digital number will be taken out of circulation so that you cannot buy or sell without the mark of a beast. The mark of the beast is a digital mark. And if they take your digital connection to the world and they take it out of circulation, then you can no longer use your credit cards. Your money is all digital, and your credit cards will be digital, and you will no longer be able to use your credit card. You'll no longer be able to use your identification, and you've been taken out of circulation forever, period. Why? Because you are not going along with the world communist movement. And
well,
finally, Americans are waking up to it now.
Well, this coronavirus thing has introduced something called contact tracing, where it's now guilt by association, and it involves a lot of government workers basically tracing people. So if you went to a Taco Bell where an employee came down with COVID and your credit card receipt or your transaction shows you were there, well, now you were in contact with the virus. So the contact tracers could get in touch with you and let you know and your family know to quarantine. So they've used this concept of this new virus, this coronavirus, to justify completely monitoring every single transaction, to where in some places you can't even go into a store or a bar or a restaurant without a mask and signing your name at the door, logging
Yep,
in like you are checking in like you're some type of a prisoner.
you're right. That's exactly right. And that's what I've been trying to tell people for all these years. I've been trying to tell everyone. That's precisely right. That's what's going on.
Okay, well, Jordan, this has been really great. We've covered a lot of ground. I think we're going to do this more often.
Yep,
And
that would be nice.
yeah, I think we can definitely do this. Hopefully once a week or something. We'll talk. Maybe I'll have you call into my live stream any of these evenings. So I'm going to see if anybody else has any questions for you. Fiona says, "Is it checkmate then?"
Say it again.
Fiona in the comments wants to know, do you think that it's checkmate for humanity?
Yeah, I think so. It's checkmate for the whole human race, period.
Okay.
All over the world, nobody has the educational opportunities that we have in America. All over the world, the people are just ignorant slaves and doing what they're told to do. And their masters will tell them what to do, and they just do it. Because they have no education, no background, no understanding, and therefore they're just ignorant slaves. That's all over the earth. And now it's become the same in America. We are ignorant, ill-informed, and unread, and we just do what we're told. And they tell us that we're going to die some horrible, terrible death. But the hospitals are empty, and the hospitals you can't even get into. They're empty, and you can't even get in one. So, I mean, I know because I have tried. It's an incredible story
It is.
of betrayal.
The empty hospital phenomenon went viral when people who were questioning the quarantine just started going and filming their hospitals. And they
Yeah.
found that the news is like, oh, you had 50 people die here. But the reality is it's a ghost town.
Yeah, you're right.
So it shows you, though, that if we didn't have people like you who stand up and ask questions, or the people who go out and record these hospitals, if nobody stood up to question, really, we would have no clue. You know, we would be under the impression that the world was going underneath this permanent pandemic state, when in reality, it's a political pandemic and it's a power grab and with ulterior motives. So
It's a power grab, grabbing America by the throat and destroying this country. And the people of America are useful idiots, according to what the communists call the Soviet people. The very word Soviet, that's actually like South Vietnam, Soviet. The very word Soviet is a group of people unelected, but an unelected group of people that are running the country's laws. And so it's called a Soviet Union. And so the Soviet Union was a group of people running everything themselves. Well, that's what we got today. All over America, we have all these little groups, and they will tell you what you can do and what you can't do. What will be shut down, and you have to wear a mask, and you have to do this. You have to stay home. It's another new Soviet Union over the whole world of mankind. And the most powerful guy on the block is the United States. And they're not going to have a new world order unless you can destroy the old world order. And America is going to be a new world order in which the elites are going to control the whole world with our technology. That's why the Bill Gates and all the other bunch of Soviet operational agents are doing their thing to control the whole world through computers, through Microsoft, through the computers. It's just an incredible story, and I
yeah,
don't
it
know what
really
else
is.
to tell.
I think we've covered a lot of ground for today. Where the term Soviet, that's an interesting point there, unelected, because what we're
Yeah.
looking at here is mob mentality. They want mob rule, unelected, rule by force, rule by coercion. Even in the sciences, they say 97% of the scientists agree that the Earth is getting warmer, therefore it is. Well, that's not science. That's just ruling by consensus.
Well, of course, it's ruling by consensus. They it's not agreed. It's just that 97% of scientists are told that the world is we're getting warmer, and yet it was still getting cold. And I think we are heading for a freezing cold time coming. But we are being told, and 97% of all scientists are told. And so science today is a religion. And I've said it so many times, our religion should be scientific. But in fact, the sciences of the world are now a religion. They have their holy men, they have their saints, and they have their holy men and their holy writings, and everybody who's going to be anybody. And keep in mind also that before the Roman Empire existed, Europe had a huge population of people living in Europe under their own operation. But then came the Soviet Union, or then came Rome, and Rome dominated all of Europe. Well, keep in mind that when all the people of Europe before the Roman Empire, they were called, what was the term that was used? They were Druids. And so all the judges, the priests, the police, the legal, the educational, the religious groups all over Europe are all Druids. And with one of the most important symbols was the Druid. In the Druid world, before the Roman Empire, one of the most important symbols of power was a magic wand, like Merlin the magician. Merlin the magician had a magic wand. If you go onto the web and put in image, type in image first, and then say Jesus with a magic wand, you'll see all of the paintings and statues around the world where Jesus is healing people with a magic wand. Well, keep in mind that magic wands were always made out of the wood of a holly tree. It was made out of Hollywood. And that's what we are doing today with Hollywood. We are dazzling people around the world to believe whatever we want them to believe with Hollywood. And Hollywood is infested with pedophiles and all kinds of criminality going on in Hollywood.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's got its propaganda aspect, and then it has this other aspect that's just very seedy and destructive of culture, where, I mean, I keep bringing up the Joker movie because the main character, whose last name is Phoenix, who burns down the system and starts the revolution, well, after the movie was released, he got involved in street activism with Jane Fonda, protesting capitalism, blaming America for the state of the world and for Australia burning. And so I'm looking at this as these actors are all just revolutionary agents in place.
That's what they are. They're just revolutionary agents.
Yep. And they get the masses to emotionally agree with things, so in the movie it ends where everybody's putting on clown masks and burning down the city. And I'm like, that looks like this summer. Like we're watching the Joker movie unfold in front of us.
Yeah, you're right.
Again, Hollywood, it creates these myths, just like the religions create myths.
Just keeping in mind that all magic wands were made out of the wood of a holly tree. It's made out of Hollywood. And that's what we're doing today around the world. We say that the Hollywood is being run by Jews. It's not Jewish Hollywood. There are many Jews who are operating in Hollywood, but it's a Druidic society. And most people don't know Druidism and what it is and how it works. But you need to go back and look at the word Druid and see what is going on today in Hollywood. It's an incredible story. Again, it's just an
Well, I agree with what you
outrageous
just said
story.
about science being a religion, and that's why I really think that I can't prove it, but it wouldn't surprise me if the whole WHO was just a Jesuit front, because
That's what I think too. I think it's a whole Jesuit front.
it makes
That's what
sense
I
because
think.
you have a world where they've taken the dominant paradigm out of the religious, archaic, and now it's a scientific paradigm. And with global warming, you have wrath of God. With viruses, you have sin that can kill people if they don't
Yep.
get cured or mitigated. So it's a new puritanical vision of how we should live, but it has a scientific basis.
That's exactly right. You're starting to think now. Now you're starting to see what's really been going on here for all along. They never told you, but now you're beginning to see it. Make all the connections in your mind, and finally you will see. Why is he called God's son, S-O-N? Because in Anglo-Saxon language, which we are Anglos, in England, the sun that comes up in the morning is called S-U-N. But in Germany, that thing that comes up in the morning that lights the world is called S-O-N, not S-U-N. So therefore, Jesus is God's son, the light of the world. Of course, the sun is the light of the world. And so the whole idea of Christianity goes back to the worship of the sun. I'll tell you one other thing you need to keep in mind, that we are told, and I wish I had the document in front of me, but we're told in ancient Egypt, there is a story that Pharaoh was walking along a river one day, and over his head came a UFO, a silver disc, came over the head of the Pharaoh. And he heard, in his mind, he heard the voice tell him that he was supposed to go back and found a new city and call it Tetragrammaton. And so therefore he was supposed to go back and found a new country, a new city in Israel, Pharaoh Akhenaten. That was the name of the city, Akhenaten. And now today, Hebrews would tell you that the name of God, the Jews would tell you that the name of God is so holy, you cannot pronounce it. If you pronounce it, you're using God's name in vain, because you are not supposed to use God's name. But if you want to talk about the Jewish God, the God of the Hebrews, there is a word that you can use. It's called the Tetragrammaton. The Tetragrammaton, to most Jews, everybody will know what that means. Tetragrammaton. Because tetra means four. Gramma means letters, like I, A, B, C, D, E as gramma. That's where we get our word gramma, grammatical, grammar. So Tetragrammaton is the name of God in the Hebrew that you can use if you want to talk about God. Tetragrammaton. But it's called actually tetra, four, gram, Gramm is a letter like A, B, C, D. Tetragrammaton, A-T-O-N. The Aton was the sun god of Egypt. So therefore the sun worship, you see that in the Vatican. If you go to the Vatican, you'll see the seat of Peter. Up on the wall is a huge, beautiful chair sitting up on the wall, and behind it is the sun. And so therefore they're worshiping the Son of God, God's holy Son, Jesus. And where do we get the word Jesus? It comes from the ancient Greek word for the sun. The sun was called Iosis in the ancient Greek, and I do mean ancient. In the ancient Greek, the sun was called Iosis, I-E-S-O-U-S, or I-E-S-U-S. Iosis was the sun in ancient Greek. Well, today we have I's and J's are interchangeable. I and J is the same letter, The J has a little upturned tone. It has a little uptone,
Yeah, the little hook on the
uptones.
bottom.
Yeah, it has a little hook at the bottom. And so I's and J's are interchangeable. So instead of I-E-S, I-E-S-U-S, it becomes J-E-S-U-S, Jesus. Jesus is
Well,
God's son, the
this
light of the world.
this is controversial for many Christians, but I kind of feel like the people who grew up religious and never questioned it are kind of like the people who never question the news. They never get the real truth.
That's right. They never get the real truth. That's exactly correct. I could go on for days and talk about all kinds of stuff in religion because that's my chosen profession, was theology and religion. And boy, what a story that is, where we got our different religious belief
Well,
systems from.
next time we talk, I think our next topic, I'd really like to get into the flood myths, Noah's Ark, and the origins of those stories and the characters like Moses and
Oh, that would be wonderful. I'd love to do that because that's where my expertise are. Then I feel I'm back where I belong. I'm in theology and religion.
let's get
And
back to
boy,
that
that's
next time we
a
talk then.
hell of a subject.
Because I like keeping up with current events with you because you've been calling these things in advance and we want to get your view on it. But I do want to go back into a lot of the things that you've just put decades of research into, specifically astrotheology, religion, and the myths and their origins. So we'll do that soon. We've been here about 90 minutes now. I want to say thank you for taking the time to join us. And I'll get you this recording after so we can share it. And we'll make this a regular thing because even though it seems like humanity's been checkmated, there is a growing number of people like us who do collaborate and talk and share this information. So at least we'll know what's going on.
Yeah, well, at least you'll know for sure. And I have people telling me all the time, well, there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. And I say, yeah, it's a train coming, stupid.
Right.
It's a train coming, which is a light at the end of the tunnel. And people are waking up. Well, that's what you do when you're in prison. When you're in federal prison, every morning you wake up. But you might as well stay in bed and go back to sleep because you're not going anywhere. You're still in prison, but you're waking up. So now the problem is you're waking up to find out you're in prison. And now how to get out of it? Well, knowledge is power. You don't have the power to do anything because you don't have the knowledge. Knowledge is power. And once you understand the words and the terms and the symbols and just listen and learn, you will find out all the dark stuff you were never told. It's an incredible story.
Hey, just like in the Matrix, they wake up, Neo wakes up to find out he's in bondage.
That's right.
And it's
I
like
love it.
his friend Cypher is like, well, I'm going back
Yep.
to sleep.
That's what I feel.
Okay,
So
well, hey,
anyway, let's do that. Let's do it again. Let's do the show again, but this time we'll do it on religions of the world, all the different religions of the earth and where they come from. It's a real incredible story.
absolutely.
I don't mind.
So,
I'd love
to everyone here hanging out, I want to say thanks for joining us. We will do this again, and I will be sending you to your emails a recording, and then half the ticket sales, I'm sending it to Jordan's research. So, Jordan, I'll be in touch. Juan Valdez says he's watching from Guatemala. Enjoyed the show.
And keep in mind, if you want to talk to me, there are different websites on the web with my name on them, but I don't own them. Other people are using my name to make money. But my place on the web is called Jordan Maxwell Show, SHOW.com. So keep that in mind, jordanmaxwellshow.com. And also, if you go on jordanmaxwellshow.com, you will see advertised a research website that I have. Join the Research Society website. Join the research website. That's where I put all the pictures and documents and all the interesting stuff I talk about. Over the years, it's all there. All you have to do is just go to the research website, join it, and you'll see all the pictures and documents and all the dark stuff that's been talked about, it's all there. So thank you for having me on, and let's do it again. We'll talk later.
Excellent. Thank you, Jordan, and everyone else. Thank you. We'll see you guys. I'll send you emails later on today. Thanks a lot to everyone who was
Okay.
watching. Thanks, Jordan. Have a great